reflection to renaissance. And so as I prepare for this talk, you know, I get with staff and we look at all of the things that we've accomplished or achieved in the previous year, and it continues to amaze me what we are able to do year after year after year. And so I want to take some time to just kind of share with you all some of the highlights of 2016. If I went over everything, we would be here for probably a couple of days, and I don't think we have enough food for that. But really want to touch on a few things related to our city council goals. Every year we go through a planning process in June, and we really work with staff to kind of mine what we think are the best goals for the forthcoming or upcoming year. And so I want to touch on some of those achievements as it relates to those goals. The first of which is fiscally sound city government. You know, we are charged as a governing body of being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, okay? And we take that very seriously. So much so that I want you guys to understand some of the accomplishments that we've had in 2016. Of course, we are charged by state law to adopt a budget every year. And that process, I will tell you, has been at times more challenging than others. But it certainly has become a much more optimistic process as the economy has rebounded. But a couple of the highlights of the budget that I think are very important is, number one, we recognize that as a council, we don't do the work, okay? And we have a staff that's hired and trained to do the work. And one of the things that I'm most proud of with our budget is that we've been able to take significant steps to continue to reward our staff financially to keep them engaged and encouraged and motivated to carry out the goals and strategies that council has set forth. We also continue to reinvest significant amounts of money in infrastructure. Oftentimes I will get an email or I'll get a call or somebody will stop me in the grocery store and say, hey, Mayor, what are we going to do about these roads? And I kind of look at them and I say, you do know I drive these same roads and my car doesn't hover over them. So understand that I fully understand the demands and the requirements that are placed on the budget process. But year over year, we continue to reinvest in infrastructure. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. We were able to refund, or in common terminology, refinance some debt this year, 2016. And that represented about $800,000 in interest savings to the city. Why does that happen? Because the rating agencies, they recognize that our fiscal management and, more importantly, our outlook, things that we have in the pipeline as far as growth and development, these are all signals that say, hey, look, Lancaster is a promising community. They have fiscal policies and fiscal management such that they can go out and take advantage of low interest rates in the market. And as a result of that, that's $800,000 that we can then reinvest in other more critical needs for the community. And so very proud of what we've been able to do from a fiscal management standpoint. $2 billion. All right, $2 billion. That is the highest assessed tax value in the history of the city of Lancaster. And that is squarely the result of increased growth and development, and it speaks to the long-term financial viability of our community. And so I'm excited about the fact that we have hit that threshold, and it certainly speaks to all the hard work that this council and that the staff has done and continues to do to recruit and attract quality development to the city. And I think you all are just beginning to realize and see what that's going to mean for this community long term. The other piece of that is, as we've worked to diversify our tax base, 2016 was the first time that our community has hit that 50-50 balance between commercial property tax value and residential property tax value. And so for the longest time as a community, the residents shared more of the burden of the tax base. And now, in 2016, for the first time ever, it's a 50-50 split. And I will tell you that that number will continue to increase on the commercial side as development continues to occur. So those are all very, very positive things that I think we can look back from a fiscal responsibility standpoint and be proud of what we've achieved in 2016. The other thing that I think is very critical, and it speaks to, again, our fiscal management and policies, is we continue to have an on-time audit. And for the first time ever, we had our Comprehensive Annual Finance Report, or CAFR as is known. And so that's a significant achievement. I know City Manager's got a small grin over that. I know she's been pushing for that for some time now. But again, as a result of those kinds of things and policies, the State Comptroller's Office continues to recognize the City of Lancaster for financial transparency. And again, we are charged to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and I think, quite frankly, that speaks to that and then some. Civic engagement. We oftentimes, as a council and as a staff, we sit around and we think, what can we do to better engage or better encourage and foster an environment where our citizens will be more involved in our community? Because we don't just do it alone. It takes input and advice from people from our boards and commissions and various other committees. What I can tell you is that in 2016, we had 2 national night outs, one in the traditional August time frame, which, as you know, can be interesting in Texas. But what I'm encouraged about and our council is encouraged about is that in 2016, we had 2 new neighborhoods that wanted to participate in National Night Out. And so the struggle is we end up having 8 to 10 neighborhoods that we have to try to get to as a council in about a 2-hour period. But again, that is just another example of how neighborhoods are recognizing that, number one, the city encourages and appreciates the ability to connect with our residents, okay? And it's an opportunity where they can touch and talk and, fellowship with council members, with city leadership, particularly police and fire, and again, foster stronger relationships in the community. And I think those things continue to pay off for us long term. You all just watched the video. Last year was our first time participating in the It's Time Texas Community Challenge. And what struck me about that challenge was I was at a presentation where the focus really was on the alarming rates of childhood obesity, the health crisis that this country is facing. And I said, you know what? There's no reason why Lancaster can't participate in that. And so last year we came in 2nd place, and I just checked real time. This year we're in 2nd place. Ms. Brown, are you listening? Okay. All right. So I want to take this time to, again, charge you all with taking advantage of this opportunity to participate in this challenge and help Lancaster be #1 in our category because, again, we know that health is very, very important, particularly for our young people. And we certainly want to make sure that we are as healthy a community as possible because when you're a healthy community, again, there's so many things and options that are available to us, and we want to make sure that we represent. And quite frankly, I think it would be great if one of the best Southwest communities, obviously Lancaster in particular, wins that challenge. We continue to have a flood of applicants for both our civic leadership and our public safety academies. And these are opportunities where residents can learn more about how local government works and with respect to the Civic Leadership Academy. And then from our Public Safety Academy, they get to understand how police and fire operations work. And we think that's critical because when you know better, you typically do better, right? And so our goal is to help our residents better understand how local government operates so that they can be better informed and, quite frankly, be cheerleaders for our community. And what we have found is that people that have graduated through both of those academies have gone on to volunteer for boards and commissions and continue to add value to their community by doing so. And so we continue to be excited about the continued interest in those activities. Many of you know that in 2012, our community experienced a tornado, and that required us to rely on the support of a lot of outside agencies, one of which is called a CERT team, or as we know it, the Certified Emergency Response Team. So I'm pleased to announce that in 2016, we have our own homegrown Lancaster CERT team. And so these are people that live here that have said, hey, in the event of some type of catastrophe, we want to be the first ones to step up to the plate and help our neighbors be able to overcome whatever the challenge or the obstacle that's been presented. And so I think that, again, speaks to community pride and certainly what we're doing to help foster civic engagement. Can't say enough about our partnership with Lancaster ISD. It's amazing that we continue to figure out ways where we can work together both at the school board level and the city council level, at the staff level, to ensure that we're doing everything in our power collectively to enhance our community and certainly make sure that our young people have a great educational environment. And then we can leverage that with the business community, with the faith-based community, to ensure that collectively Lancaster is as strong as it could possibly be. So very much proud of that. Continue to be encouraged by the partnership with folks like Cedar Valley College. And I know Dr. Joe Seabrooks is here, their new president, Dr. Seabrooks. Glad you could make time to be with us today. But certainly corporate sponsors like Encore, Atmos, Access Self-Storage. And I know when you get into naming names, you get into trouble. But my point is this. This is our community, folks. And it takes all of us working together, the Ministerial Alliance, working together to ensure that we can achieve what we want to achieve in Lancaster and support whomever needs to be supported in ways that are so critical. So let's talk about development infrastructure. That's what people really, I think, are most excited to hear about. And hey, I just don't have enough time, so I'm going to give you all the highlights because it's been a tremendous year in 2016, but I would tell you that 2017 is shaping up to be even more dynamic. But think about this. 73 commercial building permits, okay? And I talked about tax value, right? That represents over 9 million square feet in new commercial development in this city. And that's not just big boxes, folks. I mean, we've got other light industrial developments that are occurring, retail developments that you'll be see occurring or under construction. But the key is that represents in gross, now this is gross, taxable value over $1.1 billion in gross taxable value, folks. So again, when I talk about the rating agencies and they look at the strength of what's happening here in our community, commercial development is essential to how this community is going to continue to grow and then reinvest and provide the types of services that our residents demand and quite frankly deserve. 134 new home starts. So as you all have seen over these past few years, we've had neighborhoods that new home construction has just exploded. And that's, of course, not unique to just Lancaster. It's really indicative of what's happening in the region and the fact that North Texas continues to be one of the fastest growing regions in the country. But even here in the southern part of the Metroplex, we continue to see significant new home starts. What I'm impressed about is that the average value of these homes is over $200,000. And you say, well, I know some of y'all live in some real fancy homes out here. Right? So, but for us in Lancaster, for a residential dwelling to pay for the cost of services that we provide, you know, that number is around $150,000, $160,000. And so as we continue to have homes that increase in value, new homes in values in the $200,000+ while we are not a for-profit organization, it just goes to show you that these homes are in fact covering what it costs to provide services to them and then some. And so that again affords us the opportunity to take those dollars and reinvest them in other areas of the community that we certainly know are needed and appreciated. We implemented a sidewalk replacement program. And in 2016, we had a dozen residents take advantage of that program. And you say, what is that all about? Well, obviously, as in older parts of town, sidewalks continue to degrade. And this program was designed to help match residents, a 50-50 cost split, to help, again, restore the sidewalks in neighborhoods, because what we know is that neighborhood revitalization is critical. Okay, and so it's important that not only as a city we reinvest in our community, but we encourage our residents to reinvest in their homes, to reinvest in their neighborhoods, because that is, again, a sign of a strong community. Let's talk about streets. So the next time I see somebody in the store, I'm going to tell them, you know, we spent over $3 million in roadway improvements in 2016. And they're going to look at me and say, well, you didn't come down my road. And so I'm going to tell them, well, we're getting to it, okay? But you got to start somewhere, right? But the reality, folks, is that from an infrastructure standpoint, this council and this staff recognizes that we have to continue to reinvest in roadways. And I won't go through the list of roads. Just drive every road in the city, and you'll figure out the ones that just got repaired. But infrastructure is critical to economic development. And we recognize that we have to continue to find ways to reinvest in infrastructure. We have to continue to find ways to add infrastructure where there currently is not infrastructure, because that is going to, again, continue to be a catalyst for ongoing economic development. And so Shane, who's our new Economic Development Director, I hope you understand that we are committed, and we know that economic development is very much important to the life of this community. So that's kind of a quick recap of 2016 and what I call reflection. But I want to talk about Renaissance. And if you look up Renaissance, the definition that I think is most appropriate is this spirit of transformation. And so we talked at our planning session this past June about where do we see Lancaster 10 years, 15, 20 years from now? And so in 2016, we completed what we think is a sound roadmap in the form of our comprehensive development plan. And this tool is really going to help us in terms of how we develop, how do we grow in a manner that will be viable, sustainable, and quite frankly, will challenge the norm or the perspective that people have for Lancaster. Because I believe, this council believes, that this community can develop in ways that nobody really imagined or envisioned. And this comprehensive plan is at the core of this renaissance. That's what's going to drive development that we've not seen before in this community. Okay? That's what's going to drive making sure that people recognize Lancaster as one that appreciates its heritage, but also recognize that there is a unique and dynamic way that we can marry our historic background with the reality that we are very much a part of this metropolitan area and need to be able and be prepared to offer amenities to a wide variety of folks that will consider Lancaster as a community that offers it all. And so very excited about what this comprehensive plan means. And we also understand that as a council and as city leadership, we can't just let it sit on the shelf, and we will actually implement what the plan has laid out for us, because we believe the plan is very dynamic and exciting. 2016. So we have engaged a consultant for retail development called the Retail Coach. And you say, well, what does that mean? What are you talking about, Mayor? Last May, a group of us went to Las Vegas to the ICSC convention, which is a convention of retailers, restaurateurs, hotelers from all over the country and the world. Some 30,000 attendees. It's the biggest convention I've ever seen in my life. And we spent a couple of days meeting with consultants to talk about, hey, Lancaster, Texas is ready to take advantage of what's available in the marketplace as it relates to restaurants, retail, and hotel. And so we recognize that we have to be more strategic, more aggressive, more proactive in how we go about doing that. And so we engaged the Retail Coach to assist us, because I don't want to keep having to leave Lancaster to find certain things. I don't want our residents to have to keep leaving Lancaster to find certain things. And when you look at $300, $400, $500 million in sales tax revenue leakage annually, we've got to stop it, folks. How do we do that? We put people in the game that know how to help us win. And so we've gotten some preliminary feedback from our consultants about opportunities for our community. And I think that certainly council and staff is encouraged. And you will see here in the next 12, 18 months, we think that there are some opportunities that will be coming out of the ground, if not are completed, that will demonstrate how we are very much serious and will be competitive as it relates to attracting those types of amenities to our community. And so lastly, as I think about this renaissance, we don't do this alone. There are many of you in this room that have been longtime community partners, supporters, corporate citizens. We have to continue to foster these relationships, folks, because if our city is going to be the dynamic city that I know it can be, and I know that we're on the road to becoming, it's going to be imperative that we continue to work on workforce development, okay, educational attainment, okay, making sure that we are positioning ourselves to address issues related to public transportation. So this renaissance and what we envision as a council, it's grand, it's big, but you got to start somewhere. And we know that we have to take incremental steps and have incremental wins, okay, to get to where we want to be long term. And so the only thing that I ask before I take my seat is that you all continue to understand that there's a governing body and a staff that is committed to the success of this community. And we want you to very much be a part of that. We need you to be a part of that. We demand that you all be a part of that, okay? Because the reality is this, folks. Lancaster is just as relevant now as it has been, but we will continue to be at the forefront of conversations and initiatives and issues that will ensure that we will be a viable and successful long-term community. And my goal and my personal desire is that long after I'm gone, okay, long after this council is gone, this staff is gone, people will see that there was wisdom and there was vision that you don't question, you don't wonder about. And it's no different if I had my business hat on from a sustainability and succession planning standpoint. Long-term planning, all of those kinds of things are the things that ultimately we think about and we go to bed about every night, and we wake up every morning wondering, what can we do today to make Lancaster better for tomorrow? So I appreciate you all's attention. I appreciate this opportunity again to be able to come before you and just share some of my thoughts about where we are and where we're going as a community. And so with that, Pat, I think we got plenty of time. I know y'all wanted to get to the raffles. So thank you all again. I'm looking forward to a great 2017, and I will take my seat.